I'm Joshua Hayward, and thanks for joining me for life readings this week in the stars and cards. And let me extend an invitation to you to join me each week as I explore all the possibilities and the challenges and the opportunities for inward growth and outward effectiveness. And this is brought to you by Breath of Life School in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and many blessings. Enjoy. Are you in alignment with yourself, with who you are? And are you aligning with what you're doing and where you're going? So this week, it begins on September 5th, Sunday, September 5th. It starts right off that next day on Monday, the 6th, with a new moon in the sign of Virgo. And that's with the sun conjunct the moon at about 14 degrees. Mars is also in Virgo, a little bit farther along in Virgo. So this Virgoan energy certainly is about, well, it's about perfection and working and service, but Virgo is how things hang together. And I've noticed that Virgo natives and people that have a lot of Virgo in their charts tend to see the order of life in a way that, well, the rest of us don't. And maybe we're not that capable of unless we have some strong Virgo somewhere in our chart. And hence, that kind of weird, geeky Virgoan thing gets criticized quite a bit. But this week, let's take advantage of it because it's here for all of us. The sun's conjunct the moon in Virgo on the 6th. And it's also on a trine. That's that 120 degrees to the planet Uranus, which if you've been following this week in the stars and cards, if you've been following this series, you've seen that it just went retrograde, and it was the final planet of all those powerful planets changing direction and going retrograde. So you have that retrograding Uranus, and with a new moon on a nice trine to it, and also toss in Mars and Virgo there. Okay, so that's all the astro-ease that I'm going to... let me explain a little bit more of that. It's just the identity and with the sun and the feeling of who you are with the moon and how you act and what you do. Or should I say what we do? No, it's more like we, because this is a collective thing. All right? And so the workingness of Virgo that wants to set things right, it wants alignment. Alignment can happen if you don't feel that aligned as you watch this, perhaps at the beginning of the week, or if you watch it later on in the week, maybe you can think back and see, okay, that's what was happening. All right, so as you begin to gather yourself and focus your energy, because Virgo is very sharply focused. It's a very mental sign. It's a very healing sign, too. As we fix things, we sort of heal things. And by fixing, I mean finding the natural order of that and letting it come to be. A lot of it's got to do with consciousness, but a lot of it has to do with conscious effort as well. So consciousness comes together with some good effort. And on that trine to Uranus, we're talking about change. And changing the fundamental things of life with the Taurus energy is really about ownership and values and what's important to us. And we need to understand that that's changing with Uranus and Taurus. The fundamental things that we find to be important are changing. And if you're not in alignment with who you are or where you're going, think about that. We tend to be stubborn. We tend to not let go of those things that we've been holding on to for a long time that we consider to be important. So this week, in somewhat of an orderly fashion, because Virgo is definitely very orderly, although Uranus is not that orderly, but in the combination here, it's orderly. Uranus is more about change, so it's really orderly change that we can make, okay? And this tends to work out, you know. These are earth signs. It's grounded energy. So we're spiritual beings, but we've got to ground that stuff out here on the earth. We can either value the lower part of the earth or the fleshy part of life, and we can value that a little bit too much and lose track of our heavenly connection. Lose track of our Christ consciousness, lose track of what we need spiritually. So let's try to put those things in line as we move forward this week. And it's a powerful time to do that. We're looking at later on in the month where we're getting a full moon in the sign of Pisces, of course, in the polar sign to Virgo. Virgo, Pisces, always opposite. The Piscean moon at about 20 degrees of Pisces, so we're getting a full moon. Well, don't quote me on that. I'm kind of unsure about that in this moment. But what I think is that oh yeah, it's actually at 28 degrees, and so if you look at that, that's within a conjunction to Neptune. So that's going to be a very powerful, spiritually aligning type of energy. So between this new moon and then, we're working towards something that puts us into alignment. So let's take these days that we have in September and let's let go of a lot of negative beliefs that might keep us. Belief and limitations that will keep us from that alignment and keep us from moving forward in life. Okay, so as we look at all of that, now I'm going to move right directly into doing some tarot cards now, and the plan, as I usually have, is 6 cards, although it can vary a little bit, and this will talk about that energy of that new moon and this alignment and that focused effort that we need to move forward. And this is a productive type of time, okay? And sometimes there are energies that are going to be disruptive and not really all that productive. And you've noticed that as you're watching this, you've noticed that in rhythm in your life, and you wonder about it. Well, God, these are the good days that I really got it, and some other days I don't. And sometimes it's weeks, a period of time where, wow, I just can't focus, I can't get it right. But if we hang in there, it shifts around, and we can get it right. And sometimes we're in that place, that unproductive period or part of the cycle, that we find that we've learned some things that we can bring into our productivity. Okay, so let's go with some cards that will take us in this direction. Okay, the first card, and we've seen this card I think even last week, is wisdom, or the teacher here. And Taurus does rule this card because the Hierophant, the teacher, is sort of like God's teacher on earth. So there is wisdom that's here. There's some sort of authoritative, not authoritarian, but authoritative type of presence that I think it starts from what you know, and there's some stuff in there. All of us have more wisdom than we think that we actually have. Although there's some people who think that they're a lot wiser than they really are. But most of us really don't have that type of hubris from my experience. And another thing about this is that, and I mentioned this I believe last week, that there's the child Horus, the son of Isis and Osiris. And if you look at that, it's very Christ-like too. It's almost like Jesus here too. This is where Christ consciousness lives. So what the key to this is tapping into the Christ consciousness and the wisdom that is there, and be open to the wisdom that might come to you from others. Search and take things in and really make sure that you're aligning, not just with your mind, but in your heart and in your emotional and psychological bodies too. All right, second card coming up. And this is, well, I have to admit, kind of my favorite card, the star card. This is where you're reaching to the stars. You see that alignment here? Right? This is an alignment of the heavens and the earth. And I mentioned that in my introductory remarks here. And the energy of the stars is washing, it go into that cup and washing through and coming out and being offered to earth beings. You know, in other words, the energy of the stars is washing through the star here and being brought to us. So there's something there about divine energy in a sense of workingness in the earth. And this is saying, shoot for your highest capabilities and look for those higher levels, because these earthly energies can anchor us in. If we keep our consciousness in the higher place and bring it on home to the earth here, all right? And the sign on this card here, this major arcana, and this is 2 major arcana cards, is Aquarius. Okay, and so these are the times that we're moving into. We're out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, where we have a different sort of experience, a different perception of life on the earth. So our perceptions are changing to match what's actually happening here on the ground, if you will. All right. So third card coming up. And we've seen this before once or twice. And this is, I believe, the 21st, something like that, straight week of me doing this, in this particular go-around of astrological updates with Breath of Life. And this energy is the Ace of Wands. So renewed energy, renewed action, doing things in a different way is going to be part of your alignment this week, all right? And so finding that spark, see that card's like a spark, you know, and it gets you going, it gets you moving forward. And it's not doing things in old ways that don't work anymore. It's revitalized energy and perception, okay? So the fourth card is very, very creative. Yeah, new perception based on the Prince of Swords. And this guy is on a chariot of ideas and forms. So this card very much aligns, especially with the star card, with using creative energies, destroying the old, almost like Shiva and the Eastern god or Eastern deity, but then recreating in the same motion in a way. So destroying old thought forms that aren't working anymore and creating through increased perception and awesome ability to say, here's where we need to go. And so there's no holding back. So this is a great week for moving forward in the manners that we've mentioned so far. And don't forget love along the way, because the fifth card is the Queen of Love, the Queen of Cups. And so this is saying to really act in a kind and loving way, and also to reach within yourself, that divine energy of what you want to create and how you want to love is within you. There's a certain magical sort of look. She's looking into this pool to divine, her highest capabilities. So moving forward, letting go of the old, dreaming a little bit more too. I would say, check your dreams if you've been dreaming a lot in the last few weeks, or if you're dreaming this week, or if your imagination is active. Okay, that's a lot of the stuff that I see in this card that's important for this week. And dreams can come true, especially if they're we're talking about soul dreams here, because I tend to emphasize not the superficial, but the deep and the powerful and the real meaningful, although the superficial can be used to sweeten the deal, if you will. All right, last card here coming up. And this is the Seven of Wands, and that is courage. The courage and the strength. The Seven of Fire, the Seven of Wands. And Mars is kind of dominant in this card, so it's the courage to move forward. And so it's dare we dream. Do we have the courage to really aim for our highest capabilities and yet still set them into motion here on the earth as powerful beings? Not power from the ego here. This is power from Christ consciousness, from the soul. And remember, as I said, a very powerful rest of this month, and looking forward to 4 stationing planets in October. So the beginning of our huge change. And that next wave is on the way, next wave of our human experience. So anyway, let's make some progress in awakening and aligning this week while we can. So this is Joshua Hayward signing off.